All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Reactionary Opinions. El Capitan is unavailable tonight, so it's just going to be myself, Mr. Patriarch, and Sir Russell the Based. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Doing well. It's another new week, and it's got going, and we are flat out into it. So yeah, some interesting stories over the last couple of weeks, last week or so, which are going to be good to discuss.
Tremendous. Were you getting swole before the show?
I've got my not before the show, but maybe at about midday this afternoon.
Not tremendous. Yeah, I was doing that a little bit earlier. Yeah, getting back into the gym is one of the best things I've did recently. All right, cool. Yeah, so things are going good over here. I've for any of you who are listening and waiting for that interview to drop with Dr. Gottfried, I did that on Saturday. And you can go check that out on my channel at Mr. Patriarch. Go over there, check it out, and subscribe. I've also released a new video on fascism, and I'm hard at work finishing my next one, which should be done this week. I've got a schedule going now. Instead of just doing it how I feel like it, which is better.
I've got to watch about the last 30-35 minutes of that, because I watched it live the first hour and about 20 minutes or so, and it was about an hour and 50 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to watch the last little bit there, but there were some amazing sound bites in that. That would be nice if you could just extract them in like a 30-second one where he answers a question quickly or something like that. It would be a great idea to have a couple of soundbite clips, to kind of whet people's appetite, so they drive them to that to the full interview.
Yeah, no, I already did that with another a totally unrelated talk he did with a YouTuber called Academic Agent. There was this little bit I heard. It was only about 2 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, this is gold!" And I already chopped that up and I put it up on my channel as well. So yeah, new material coming out for me. I've got, like I said, this new video which I'm working on, which is going to be comparing fascism with Nazism. And this will probably be the second last video of the series. And then on Saturday evening, late, I'm going to be appearing on Jonathan Poll's show. He's an American historian who specialized in East Asia studies. So he sent me a message, and apparently I asked him what he wanted to talk about, and he said, I want to talk about Italian fascism, patriarchy in Africa. And I'm like, oh, great. That's what I'm all about these days. So, and you're muted, Russ.
That would be interesting because, a fellow American getting an idea from a fellow American about Africa I think that's a good talking point,
Yeah. No, and this guy's interesting because for a number of years, he was actually a professor in Ghana. So him and I'll be able to have a nice sort of back and forth and do a sort of compare and contrast, because obviously I've never been to Ghana, and we could kind of pick each other's brains about the different African countries.
Ghana, the original independent country, the first one to become independent, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and as I understand it, not a total shithole, but I could be wrong. But poor, but not like tons of social strife and whatever. But again, like I don't know much about him, but about Ghana. But hopefully, I'll learn a bit more about it when I talk to Dr. Poll. So I'll be putting info on that on my channel pretty soon. So, anyways, now all that's out of the way, all the pleasantries, all the jib jab. Let's get into sort of the discussion for tonight. So on the agenda, we have 3 points. 1, we're going to talk about Amy Coney Barrett. 2, we're going to be talking about Hunter Biden. And 3, the looming lockdown. A guy at the gym actually just was talking to me about it. And I'm like, yeah, I sure should hope it doesn't happen, but we'll see. So anyways, let's go on with this first story. Russell, what have you heard so far about the Amy Coney Barrett confirmation and so forth?
Well, it's not that I've heard much. I remember her nomination, a couple of questions, in the media, and a couple of articles here and there, and it all seemed, I didn't delve into it too much, but compared to for some reason there wasn't as much sort of backlash as to the appointment of Brett Kavanaugh, and it's like I was expecting a bit of a backlash because of her appointment, but apparently, I mean, I don't know. We know that she's a conservative judge, and she's had a good conservative judge record as a circuit court judge and a federal circuit court judge. I think it is that she was for many years. So she's held in high regard. And yeah, I was quite surprised. I was very happy that she was appointed, number one, and very happy that there wasn't much obstruction to her appointment. And yeah, what does that now leave us on the bench?
It's harder to accuse a woman of sexual assault, I guess.
Yeah, well, like, it's difficult. Yeah, they seem. I think that was the master stroke by Trump. Put a woman in there that is conservative, so you can ram it through quickly. You know what I mean? But meanwhile, she's a conservative, an upstanding conservative, all-American conservative woman, and it doesn't matter. But he slipped that one past the liberals. It's a woman, oh my word, but it's great for diversity. But the likelihood of her and Brett Kavanaugh voting together is good. So what diversity is that? You get what I'm saying? So these guys sometimes they fall in their own. These liberal guys, they fall in their own trap. Sometimes they look at everything on the surface. What is that now? I don't know what the standings are, but what does that leave the 9 judges bench in terms of conservative, moderates, and liberal?
I think at this point now it sort of tilts one conservative. Yeah. So before that, it was kind of like a tie, and then there was Justice Roberts, who's kind of the wild card. You never really know which way he's going. But now, because Ginsburg has been replaced with Barrett, that is it's definitely more of a lean. Because now, if you think about it, you have Gorsuch, Barrett, Kavanaugh, and Clarence Thomas. And who's the other one? I'm thinking you got Roberts, but again, like I said, he's sort of the wild card. But anyways, and maybe there's someone else. I don't know all my Supreme Court justices. And then the cookies, the 2 craziest ones were Ginsburg and Sotomayor. And now Sotomayor is kind of the standard bearing kooky leftist on the court. So I think this is a good theme for America. I was looking at an analysis of Barrett's jurisprudence, and it sounds like sort of her fault, as far as what I'm aware, is that she does a lot of. She's big on textualism. So her analysis of sort of understanding things is like she'll go in the pedantics of the text, and that always can sort of get you into some troubles. But the other problem is that she's also big into sort of established tradition. So things that are already settled law, she's not big on going back and changing them. So that's a problem, for example, for things like Roe v. Wade or certain government overreach programs and things like that. So the issue with that is if Barrett was in a position where she could vote on bad law and undo it, even after it's already been passed and whatnot, she might not be just due to the fact that she's kind of maintain the status quo sort of type. So she's not going to be voting for all kinds of, crazy stuff necessarily, which is good. She's definitely better than Ginsburg. But the problem is like she's not going to go in there and like destroy abortion or anything like that.
So it's going to be, look, that whole abortion thing once a Supreme Court has ruled on something, to undo it is incredibly difficult. It's a long sort of process so I wouldn't count on that anytime soon, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the other thing too is it's only the federal bureaucracy only continues to basically grow with time. And so it's kind of one of those things that undoing a federal law through the Supreme Court is pretty rare. So one of the only examples I can think of that was the Dred Scott decision. That was sort of later undone. But I see we're joined by our fearless leader here. How are you doing, Scott?
What's up, guys? Sorry, I was just extremely annoyed by a certain procrastinatus, duiciatus as well. That you know,
taking Latin class, nice.
Doesn't yeah? I'm taking Latin classes and learning how to cuss in Latin. But anyway, yeah,
duiciatus.
Duiciatus, yeah.
Duiciatus.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one thing I can't handle that like grates me more than anything is procrastination. But anyway, so I'm back here, guys. Apologies for that. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy of abortions being ended by a based Catholic woman? Is that what we're talking about?
No, that's not gonna happen anytime soon. But you know, I mean, the thing is, if you think about it, the whole thing about the Supreme Court, it's actually, in a way, it's quite tragic that the Supreme Court nominations can be such a divisive issue in a society. It shows that there is, it shouldn't be, because the overall culture is supposed to be, the whole justice and all those judges are supposed to be within the realms of their overall culture of the country. Okay. Now, when you've got two different sides, now it's chaotic, you know.
But I think, Russell, I do think here's the thing is, I do think that the Supreme Court is representative of the general public in the US. I think that the divisiveness only comes from a political aspect, because you know what happened now with when this Amy Barrett when she got nominated, who jumps on the soapbox is old what's it? The Cortez, AOC, Alexandria Cortez and stuff. Cortez, as Stephen Crowder says. Where what he tries, she now starts talking about packing the courts, and basically, I'm not too sure. I don't understand that term that much.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
It's more like weaponizing the court.
Basically, what they're threatening to do is what FDR threatened to do during the New Deal era. They never did it, but essentially, constitutionally, there's no limit on the amount of Supreme Court justices that you can appoint. So what FDR's complaint was is he had all these New Deal programs, and the Supreme Court was striking them down. And then basically what he threatened to do was to pack the court, by which he would just basically expand the judiciary and just like put his guys in there so that he'd have the majority for basically the court to rubber stamp what he wanted. So that's kind of what they're talking about now.
The thing is, but what I'm getting at, there was an article written by I don't know if what's his name? He's called Doug Casey, where he explained that the split along in America's culture the last, say, 20, 30 years, all right, has brought about all these sorts of things where people, it shouldn't be a fight as to who gets appointed onto Supreme Court benches. It shouldn't be a fight, you know. It should be a balanced view to balance the already existing order, not two different orders trying to create a balance on the court's benches. It's not the court is not supposed to be a me versus us versus them scenario diversity. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be that.
Mm-hmm. No, I think in order to understand that, I think people need to understand I mean, I don't really even understand exactly how they are chosen, the Supreme Court justices. Do you know, Dylan, the exact sort of how the logistics of how they are actually chosen.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for Scott. You said the logistics of how what happens?
Like how a Supreme Court justice is actually, put into position.
They're appointed by the president. So when there's a vacancy on the court, the president of the United States can nominate a candidate, and then they have to be approved by the Senate, not the House of Representatives. So,
I see. So that's why Obama wasn't able to get his last one in right at the end of the tail end of his thing, because they didn't have the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. So the GOP had a majority of the Senate, and Obama tried to have, what was that guy's name? Not Gorsuch. Anyways, but he appointed some justice who was fairly moderate, by the way. Yeah, this is sort of your lame duck term. We think Trump's going to win. We can do better than this. So they basically, they snowed it until exactly. And then when Trump got in, they immediately appointed Neil Gorsuch. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is definitely the cultural split. Like Russell's saying, it's almost like a massive, clear sort of polarization between the. Yeah, it's quite bizarre.
The problem is fundamentally, like most of the, or not most, but a large portion of the country now wants things to be done that are basically kind of unconstitutional, and you have this angry, highly energized minority, which is all about basically upending the whole system. And so the court does, in fact, become a political arm of the government for the simple reason that you're able to legislate through the judicial process rather than passing legislation. So an example of this was with the gay marriage thing.
Yeah, that was they call it legislating from the bench.
Yeah, it was found to be in conflict with the Civil Rights Act of 1965 or 1964 Civil Rights Act. And because of this, because it was implied that these protections would apply to homosexuals, even though they were clearly written for Black Americans, it's just been unconstitutional for the past 55 years. And now we have to accept it, bigots. So that's an example of that sort of happening. And the same thing with Roe v. Wade. So anyway.
Oh yeah, because basically all the trendies and liberal degenerates and stuff are crying about their abortion rights and stuff, and like they're going to lose their my right to kill babies kind of thing. What are we going to do now?
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. And the thing is even if, and it's probably not going to happen, but even if you were to repeal the Roe versus Wade decision, all that would do is relegate it down to the state level. So California would still have abortion. Oregon would still have abortion. New York would still have abortion, but Alabama might not. And they can't tolerate that. Basically,
yeah, because it's basically, and then they'll go out there screaming bigots and calling everyone a bigot when it's quite clear who the bigot is.
Gay union rights or gay marriage rights were actually perfectly constitutional, provided if a state decided to do it, it was perfectly constitutional. So there was nothing against in the Constitution preventing gay marriage. So the problem was that it was the way it was done was to enforce that the situation is unconstitutional, basically saying that no state may make a law upholding heterosexual marriage or opposing gay marriage. That was the ruling. You know what I mean? But a state, at any given stage in America's history, a state could have adopted quite legally and constitutionally same-sex marriage laws, if I'm not
And a
mistaken.
lot of them did. And a lot of them did.
But they wanted the whole country, not one single little plot of land, to have its own independent thought on the matter.
Oh, Russell, don't be such a bigot, man.
Yeah, well, look, hey, listen, this is like, you know, that's revolutionary stuff. You know, that's you know, that's Bolshevism, that's 1930s revolution stuff. That.
Yeah, basically, straight people are basically a threat because of their mere existence. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing. Anyway,
now sort of, oh, I was just going to say, sort of in getting in touch with the theme of tonight's episode. So I figured Russell figured this was a good topic to talk about, the Barrett thing, and it sort of leads into kind of the sort of the theme for tonight, which is sort of the kind of reliving the 1930s a little bit, and sort of, are we kind of in a similar era? So I think one of the things that we see today, and that we saw a little bit with the Coney Barrett thing, but less so than with Kavanaugh, is that the political situation has gotten really sort of out of hand, at least in the United States. So you're in a situation of gridlock now, where you really, consensus is largely evaporated, and that the common values and goals that used to bind the United States are basically no longer there. And we have basically two countries now, red America and blue America. And yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. And in such an environment like this, what thrives but corruption and degeneracy? So, which leads us into our next example.
Dylan, I just want to play one little clip over here, which is also, you know, because what Dylan's saying now is there's, you know, it's quite clear, and it's not only in the US. It's a general trend all over the world, especially, funny enough, I mean, especially in the Anglosphere. It's like the Anglosphere is like leading the team over here with this idea of progressives or conservatives. Like there's that kind of thing, and the progressives are pushing the media so hard. And I want to share this over here quickly. Give me a sec here. Where is it? Wait, sorry. So it's basically that clip. I don't know. I did send you guys that clip of Kamala Harris talking about. Hang on, where is it? Yeah, there we go. Basically, what she would do if she was. Would she be pushing progressive policies and that sort of thing? And this is a little bit of a conspiracy theory and stuff, but whatever. People can say whatever. But my little conspiracy theory is, you know, if Biden wins, he's totally crazy and messed up, and he either dies or suicides himself, or something happens, or whatever, or he's too sick to carry on as president or whatever, and boom, all of a sudden we have the first female highly progressive president. But anyway, this is the video. Just listen to this. It's quite sickening and quite bizarre, but anyway.
You're very different in the policies that you've supported in the past. You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage. But
yeah, well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator. You supported the Green New Deal. You supported Medicare for all. You've supported legalizing marijuana. Joe Biden doesn't support those things. So are you going to bring the policies, those progressive policies that you supported as senator, into a Biden administration?
what I will do, and I promise you this, and this is what Joe wants me to do, this was part of our deal. I will always share with him my lived experience as it relates to any issue that we confront. And I promised Joe that I will give him that perspective and always be honest with him.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
No. No, it is the perspective of a woman who grew up a black child in America, who was also a prosecutor, who also has a mother who arrived here at the age of 19 from India, who also, you know, likes hip hop.
Oh God, cringe.
What do you want to know?
Well, I want to give you the opportunity to address this, because at the Republican National Convention, President Trump.
Okay, that's enough. I can't really handle much more of her. But I mean, anyone like, you know that like hysterical kind of laugh, you know, like when, you know that there's something like supremely wrong with the person when they act like that, and that likes hip hop. I mean, cringe. Oh God. But anyway, this is basically where we are at now in the US when it comes to politics and stuff. And yes, I don't know, when I see the state of the Democrats and stuff, yeah, if Joe Biden, I think people underestimate, and we were talking about this the other day, Dylan, I think people underestimate the impact that Trump had on the political zeitgeist. Trump winning, Brexit, all of these things. I think people underestimate that. And if the Dems had to win and Biden had to win, I don't know. It's like really bad for the US. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah. I think one of two things would happen. So you would either see a sort of a mass clampdown. So everything that they've been threatening to do, you know, they would do. They'd have like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I don't know if you guys ever heard that, but Robert Reich, who was the, I think, Labor Secretary under Bill Clinton, he proposed having a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to deal with the trauma of living in post-Trump America, which I thought was hilarious. And so you'll either see, I'm of two minds about it. So on the one hand, if the progressives have their way, yeah, it'll be balls to the walls. Maybe they'll pack the court. They'll sort of do gerrymandering. You know, they'll open the borders again. They'll do everything they can to sort of like gung-ho go for their progressive agenda. But if the sort of neoliberals, sort of the, which I would say is sort of the Biden-Harris wing of the party, maintain control and are able to, you know, get their base behind them, what you're going to see is more of a Tony Blair scenario. So it'll be like, all right, we can get back to business as usual. Go out there, spend money, you know, watch Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just chill out. And then while you're busy doing that, we're going to quietly rework society in a way where you don't know until it's already happened. So I think those are sort of the two possibilities. So it'll be like open globo homo or like discrete globo homo.
So Dylan, let's jump into this. 1930s. You know, obviously, you know, the biggest threat across 1930s Europe would have been sort of the Marxist threat, depending on what side you were on, obviously. But why don't you just sort of run us through, I mean, you're the historian, why don't you run us through what 1930s Europe looked like and what was the zeitgeist at that time?
Yeah, so so in Europe particularly, and across most of the world, we were dealing with a massive economic contraction. The Great Depression was sort of going on. It was sort of at its worst in the years prior to World War II. And, you know, looking at the debt scenario and things like that, I'm beginning to think, and also with some other things that, you know, I didn't normally consider until fairly recently, but sort of the demographic crunch that some of these countries are going to go in Western Europe, in East Asia, where the consumption levels are necessarily going to have to go down because of the baby boomers are going to be retiring en masse soon, and they don't have the youth population to sort of come in behind them. Also, when they retire and get at their pensions and whatnot, that's going to sort of put a crunch on credit. So, and again, the central banks can just print funny money, but again, the expecting to grow out of that, which was sort of their thing before, isn't going to be feasible. So I think we're due for, in the fairly foreseeable future, for some kind of economic catastrophe, which can come from any number of angles at this point. And and when that happens, that's going to be really bad. I don't necessarily think it will be as bad as the Great Depression, but I do think something like that is inevitably going to happen just because of the sheer amounts of debt that have been accrued by nations all over the world. So there's going to be pressure coming soon, fairly soon, like within the next decade, which I think will mirror sort of what happened in the 1930s with the Great Depression. Add to that, you have a lot of political instability. So at the time, you had socialists and Bolsheviks, and those were sort of the primary political threat, and they seized on the opportunity of economic downturn coupled with the trauma of having gone through the First World War and sort of a disillusionment with the public, with the old order, to kind of try and seize power. I don't necessarily think we're going to see that. What I do think we're going to see, though, is, again, we're going to have to contend with globo homo, as I say. So we don't have socialists, we don't have Marxists, like real Marxists, real socialists to deal with, except for in Africa we do. But the West isn't really going to have to deal with that. What they're going to have to deal with increasingly hysterical and intolerant totalitarian left, who is interested in social control above all else, and sort of equality.
So mass degeneracy.
Mass degeneracy, yes. Mass degeneracy and mass centralization of education and things of this nature. So it's going to be. So I think that's sort of going to be the drawing line. So it's not going to be, old school Bolsheviks versus capitalists, or an aristocracy class. What you're going to see is sort of the woke left sort of coming in contact with regular Americans, or what remains of the right in Europe, which isn't much.
I just want to deal with a comment over here quickly. Over here, Andrew Coral says, "Mr. Patriarch, the historian, Russell the degree, and Scott the cuck talker." Although your comment is pretty accurate, Andrew, I believe that Ronaldo Gous is streaming right now. That might be your style, so you might want to just go and check out his channel.
But
anyway, get out of here with credentialism.
Look, I mean, the thing is, the similarities with 1930s and today is basically, for me, is revolutionaries and subsequent counter-revolutionaries. It's not necessarily in the same context, but it's not the same form, but it's fundamentally the same. Like what you said, you've got these revolutionaries who are what did you call them? The Homo globans.
Globo homo.
Globo homo versus those that want to react towards and resist that sort of thing. Just like in
some would say reactionaries.
Yeah, did someone say reactionaries? Look, so it was essentially it's the same sort of thing. In modern era, we've got that. In the 1930s. It was a reaction towards the upheavals from the First World War, the Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik March on Eastern Europe, and a reaction to that. Now you've got it's mostly cultural and political revolutions at the moment. There's no real active hot conflict at the moment to rev things up a bit, but that doesn't mean it's any less interesting. And I think from that perspective, and economically, the economics especially are ridiculously similar to 1929 or between 1918 and 1939, the interwar period, the economics are remarkably similar. I mean, you can basically superimpose them on each other like that, and they'll line up. Not necessarily time-wise, but situation-wise, it is quite uncanny. So yeah, look, that's just the way I see it. Politically, culturally, and economically, it's very similar to the 1930s.
Yeah, so that's interesting that the similarities are obviously revolutionary, or the revolutionary spirit, and then the sort of counter-revolutionary, and that those sort of trends remain the same. So those two spirits, you know, I mean that from the essence side. So the spiritual side is the spirit of revolution and the spirit of counter-revolution. Okay, and then obviously the economics play a part, because, you know, people, and I think it plays it's going to play a massive impact in our lives today, because of the fact that people have become far more materialistic and far more an understanding or a belief in economics being the be all and end all. And I think that people nowadays are far more materialistic. So I think that might even play the economics might even play a slightly bigger role in getting people worked up and you know, and stoking the fire, so to say. But yeah, that's interesting that you have the revolutionary spirit, the counter-revolutionary, and then that economic issue that you put those three together, and you have a disaster. So yeah, you have 1930s Europe all over again. I guess it might almost be time to call for some action. Hey, Russell.
Action.
Yeah, but that's it. You know, you will get the reactionaries and stuff. That's why, you know, like in political circles, you know, when you get called a reactionary, like Nigel Farage was called a reactionary quite often. It's almost like a slur, you know. It's the same as
he wasn't called a paranoid reaction. He was called a paranoid reactionary living on the fringes of society.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the whole thing, is that people think that if he was called a paranoid reactionary, that would be like kind of like a slur, you know. And it's like the same as, you know, anyone nowadays that's not a Marxist is a fascist. You know, it's the same thing, as people use these words as slurs, and they really don't understand what they're using these words as. They've totally redefined them. And I think that was also something that Dylan spoke about in his interview as well, is that people just don't understand what fascism really is. ATR says, should look at my excuse me, it's E. Michael Jones' book, The Jewish Revolutionary Spirit. It was kind of a reference that I was making, ATR, but well spotted there. Yeah. So, but yeah, that I think those three things are quite apparent. But yeah, no, I know ATR. It's a bit of a strange E. Michael Jones. I am Catholic, ATR, so E. Michael Jones is like our spokesperson, you know. But
for you, maybe.
Check Dylan. I did say our, so Catholics. You know, Dylan's not Catholic.
Oh, okay.
You're out of the circle. You're not in with the gay papists circle over here. Okay.
No, I'm not.
you can't be here with these gay papists. You know, this gay papacy. You know, and you know, gay papacy heresy. That. Yeah. Yes. My Catholic friends had to hear me talking like this, I'd be in trouble. But whatever. I don't mind. No, I wouldn't be in trouble. But yeah, so now coupled with all of these issues, now we have this looming lockdown. What do you guys think the chances are?
I think it would be very dangerous of any government, any elected government, I should say, to go for another round of severe lockdowns. And the reason is eventually it's going to come out that yeah, even though more cases are happening, the death rate has been continually declining. And if you basically drop a bomb on the economy again for basically no real reason, that's going to look very bad for you, the elected party. So on the other hand, though, speaking of globo homo, it would be an excellent opportunity for malevolent forces to basically nuke the current system as it exists and then to build back better and sort of consolidate everything and be like, oh, we're in a new order now.
Yep.
And, you know, we've had to endure this terrible calamity. And, you know, we just want what's best for the people. And that includes not eating as much meat. That includes not owning your house. That includes
so much sustainable development.
Yeah, sustainable development, you know.
So much
Look,
sustainable development.
Look, I mean, it's the same with the First World War, interwar period, Second World War, Cold War, end of Cold War. These guys, these internationalists and these sort of things are always looking for the next reset. Just look at the last 120 years. First World War, interwar period, Great Depression, World War II, Cold War, end of the Cold War, mass globalization was another reset. Now they look every 20 to 40 years, they're looking to reset something, you know. There's always something that they want to fiddle with, you know, tinker. They love to tinker because, you know, basically that is what these technocratic politicians love. They love to tinker with things.
Take the world and turn it upside down, basically.
Not always turning it upside down, but they can't be seen to be doing nothing. So they have to be coming up with new ideas and new things. And no matter if they're good or bad, it doesn't matter as long as you're coming up with something new. You know, as long as it's the next reset. You know, the new dawn and a new world and a new world order and a new normal and all these sorts of things. You'll see, you know, basically, if the rest of the world goes into a hard lockdown, South Africa will follow because they don't want to be left out of the party.
Oh yeah. Remember, we always said it was Dylan that made that analogy like ages ago. I think like when we just started this channel, Dylan was like, "Yeah, South Africa is like little Jimmy, the kid that eats the worm. You know, oh, don't do that, little Jimmy. You know, it's like." And we did this like he came up with that analogy like a year before lockdown. It's quite
it was
amazing.
true then and it's true now. South Africa will do it. He'll eat anything.
Yeah,
they'll do anything the World Health Organization tells them to do. That's basically what it is, you know.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about it, you know, and it's like normally that would not make sense normally. But with the amount of propaganda that's coming out about this whole lockdown at this point, this is propaganda. And I'm just not so sure. But I do think it will electorally sort of give them some shit later on. But the thing is like I said, you know, globo homo behind the scenes. Part of the thing is
what they're going to get us the channel striked over here. You're going to get strikes. Yeah.
It's not a slur. It's a real word. But look it up in the dictionary, Urban Dictionary. But the thing is there's this whole goal for sort of centralization has been around for a very long time, and the World Economic Forum's goal for, or what they think the world's going to look like in 2030 isn't anything new. This has been planned for a long time. And if you look at UNESCO, their founding statement, I believe, was written by Bertrand Russell's brother, or like it's some guy who was prominent at the time. But the Charter for UNESCO is basically saying, yeah, we're hoping to create a new future, which is a union, basically, of socialism and capitalism. And I think about it, I'm like, that sounds exactly like what everyone's trying to go for now. So sort of for the purposes of global harmony, right? So it's the whole idea is to make a fusion of international corporations, multinational corporations, and join them together with the state and provide gibs while at the same time crushing small time competition so that the mega corporations can make tons of money. So basically, it's like it's like a cross between late stage capitalism, as the socialists say, is basically communism. So you're going to have a union of corporate interest with the state, and they'll collude together to sort of have a pacified, declining population. So that's another thing that they always talk about is everyone talks about population all the time.
I've said it for a while now, Dylan. China, what you just described is exactly what the CCP did the last 25 years in China.
It's identical.
And basically, China is the model. China is the model for the whole world. Look, if you just step back from all the noise and everything, just look at it from a wide angle. Go back to the reform started coming into China when? After the end of the Cold War. They joined the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum, then they joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. This was now to develop China to become the role model over the next 20 to 30 years for the rest of the world. What you just described is exactly the CCP's model, which is internationalists adore China. They love it. They love China. Mm-hmm. And it's just, you could just see it now, even with this whole, all these ideas of lockdown. Over the years, epidemiologists and all these people, I don't know, all these so-called virologists or whoever these experts are, have always said lockdowns were a horrifically bad idea. And then all of a sudden it was a good idea. Hello?
Yeah, I saw something funny on Facebook today. It says, if lockdowns work, why do we need another one? If lockdowns don't work, why do we need another one?
That's a good point.
It's like such a good point. If lockdowns worked, why do we need another one? If lockdowns don't work, why do we need another one? It's just so
perfect logic. No, and it's one of those things too, is they talk about, okay, so they give you the big scary number, 715,000 cases in South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how many of those people are cured or have gotten better? And how many of those people have very mild symptoms? How many of those people are even in hospital? And how many of those people are dying? The answer is almost none of them are dying.
I'll show you. There's the graph. There's the graph right there. Okay, so let's have a look at it closer. Okay, so here's the graph. Okay, yeah, let's look. 26.
But Scott, what? Excess deaths, man. Excess deaths.
Oh, yeah, whatever, man. This is the death rate. This is the death rate thing over here. Okay, so you see at its height on the 22nd of July, it was 572 deaths in one day. Okay, now let's go back to just as the lockdown started over here. So, okay, not when it started, obviously, but let's go sort of 3 months into lockdown. Okay, let's go May over here. Yeah, yes, 52 deaths in one day. Okay, here, 26th of October, it's yesterday, there were 40 deaths. Why are we having another lockdown? Why are we even thinking about another lockdown? Because it's surely the most important thing is the amount of deaths, right? I mean, I'm not really fussed about if people are getting sick, but they're getting better. You know, I don't.
Well,
Maybe I'm missing
hospitalizations you could argue is something maybe a fair sort of accurate thing. But even here in the Western Cape, the hospitalizations aren't up much.
Russell, I was in hospital 2 weeks ago. The hospitals are empty, bro. They're not.
Yeah, well,
packed
this is the thing.
to capacity.
This is the thing.
The hospital that I
$500
went to, Russell, the hospital that I went to, they have closed off 2 entire wings of the hospital for renovations. But and even then they weren't that busy. But yeah, the hospitals are overloaded, huh? Cuck, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, look, like I say, that was the only thing that was supposed to be working. Only thing that was the reason why they wanted lockdowns, not to prevent the spread, but to prepare that so-called prepare the health system. But
yeah,
if our health system's not prepared by now, then what the hell? You know what I mean? But you know,
they never were prepared. This is the reality.
They never were prepared. And I was just thinking to myself, if they go and do this and go and put down, imagine if they actually go through with it and they take us back to say level 4 or 5 on the old thing. All right, imagine they do that. Do you have any idea? I do not see there being much civil obedience to this thing. I see a lot of civil disobedience coming.
I don't know. I mean, you saw that post that that me and you were on the other day by the DA, shilling for the government and stuff, big time. So,
yeah, well, I just don't think there'll be a lot of obedience. Big business will be obedient. But I don't think people on the street will be obedient.
Let's hope, because that's what we really need right now is civil disobedience. That's what we need across the board, really. But not like.
Well, look, I think to be honest with you, I think there are some local church leaders who have basically would have had enough and hopefully do something and just say, no, we're continuing to meet. Thank you very much. We're sorry, we don't care anymore. You know. I think there are, and general areas of civil society, other areas of civil society will do the same. I think there will be larger civil disobedience.
You know what? Like, if I don't listen to radio or watch, mainstream news like SABC or ENCA or any of that. But if you watch that for just 20 minutes, it's out of those 20 minutes, probably 15 minutes of those 20 minutes will be dedicated to COVID and the numbers have increased and the numbers, and like Dylan was saying, it's unbelievable how much time and airtime this COVID story gets, as if right now it's still like a massive threat that can kill millions and millions of people. Where are the millions of deaths, the bodies on the streets kind of things that these oaks lied to us about? I mean, where is that? Why did we go and waste deploying 74,000 soldiers or 74,000 military personnel to police this thing? Where's the money for the loans? Now I was reading an article over here that says the World Bank talks with SA. World Bank's talks with SA stall over SEO bailouts. Basically, the World Bank said to the government, yeah, we'll give you a loan, but you're not allowed to use that money to bail out SEOs and stuff. But basically, they basically need to do like massive reforms and stuff because the government, our country is as bankrupt as it comes.
Yeah, don't worry. They're not going to take money from the World Bank or the IMF. The first thing they're going to do is go for the 6 trillion rand pension pot.
Oh yeah, it's easier and closer to home. So I just want to go into the comments section over here. JP says over here, he says, second lockdown, no one has broken the first one yet. They have the arm bar MMA style set and they can loosen or tighten or break the arm. Yeah, that's a good comment. He says, if people are still wearing masks, you're still under lockdown. Yeah, good point. ATR, yeah, 100%. COVID is really about social remodeling rather than biological event. I saw a good comment over here made by Robin over here. Robin Goddard says, malaria deaths outnumber COVID deaths in Africa, but no lockdown for that. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Robin, welcome to the show. First time you're watching us live. It's my contact, my connection, Robin Goddard.
Yeah, that's true. You know, that malaria, TB, all of these things are, they kill far more people than COVID. But and an interesting thing is, I was chatting to a doctor a while back that his wife does work at the TB clinic here in Milnerton, just up the road, and he was telling me that this clinic is basically on the bones of their backside. They can't get funding, they can't get money, but and there's people with what's the word, immune resistant or something, TB,
extreme resistant TB, resistant TB.
Yeah, basically
that's
yeah, it's very, very dangerous. And in that clinic, and they just can't get funding, and the place is run down, and they're struggling to get funding. But everyone's, then they go and they go and spend 200 million rand on a makeshift place by the stadium, and it never gets used, or it gets used for like 200 people. It's just the most sickening mishaps and wastes of money. It's just insane.
Our biggest problem is not the politicians, it's all the shills.
Yeah, that's very.
I walked down. I was myself and a friend of mine were driving in the car today. We drive past. There's a guy walking just in the neighborhood, like on one of the side streets of the neighborhood. He's walking, no one around him. Oh, he's got a mask on.
Hey, Dylan, by you guys, is it like also like very Oaks walking in the street? And because you live in a smaller sort of town kind of environment and stuff. Is it Oaks cruising around with masks and stuff, walking their dogs with masks on?
Outside, nah. You'll see like some old timers doing it. But basically, unless you're required to wear one, like in a store or something, you don't see anyone wearing a mask anymore.
Okay, well that's good. Like I've seen because myself and Gabriella went for a walk now after dinner this evening, and I don't think I saw. I think I might have seen one or two people with masks, but this particular area where I live in is, no offense to anyone that lives in this area and stuff, is like NPC capital of the world. It is like the most NPC place that you will ever find. It's like the Oaks, yeah, just, government can say, there's a cliff, walk over it. And they're like, must we run or must we walk slowly? Like,
Unless you're a particular, Scott, in this area, unless you're a particular trailer rental hire guy in Wood Drive.
Oh yeah, no, then you're based as hell. Unless you're a certain German trailer rental guy, then you are based as hell. Yeah, and you've never worn a mask, and you probably walk into a spa without a mask and try and mood the manager because he tells you to wear a mask.
Yeah, no, just personally, I do not wear a mask unless I'm told to wear one. So like I'll like when I go to the mall or whatever, like sort of where I go work out, I'll just walk through the entryway and whatnot. And if I go into like the OK Foods or whatever to get a store, I follow protocol. I put on the mask. If I'm just going to the gym, I'm like, no, I'm not going to take it. You can't control me. So, it's just so onerous and ridiculous at this point. And here in Gordons Bay, places that like are legally required to do it, or they could, get in trouble, they do it. And then, the customers comply. But aside from that, you don't really see much. And you saw even less of it when I was in Tolbach a couple weeks ago. So it was
Dylan, Gordon's based.
Gordon's based. Yeah, I'd rather live in Gordon's based than Gordon's gay for sure.
Yeah. So ATR over here, ATR says this is actually an interesting comment over here, and we can chat about this one. He says, he or she, I don't know, says, then they will spike the deaths somehow, like putting infected people in old age homes. This is an interesting comment. The government will redirect the public's anger towards those who want the economy open somehow. You know what? I wouldn't put it past them, doing things like, you know, a spike in infected old people or whatever it is. And then, you know, the government will say, oh, you want old people to die kind of thing. And it's an interesting comment. I mean, I wouldn't really put it past them. What do you guys think about that? Russell?
No, I think they're right. You know, if they'll blame people. They did that last time, you know. They're like, oh, people are not following the curfew, so we need to, you know, lock you down even harder. Like, remember that with the alcohol, how it was legal, and then they're like, wag their finger at us, and then they banned it again. They'll do it. They'll do it.
Check John Pontes. Yes, this oak is probably the angriest oak. Like, his YouTube videos are so friendly and stuff, but his Facebook and his comments and stuff, JP, I don't know. You need to braai more often or something. I don't know, because you are.
He's in London. He can't braai enough. He must be frustrated.
Yeah, he says, I have not worn a mask at any shop or any public transport. I have had a bus driver refuse to drive. So how do you, I mean, here's the thing is, look, if I go into a shop, they won't let me in without a mask. So what am I supposed to, like, sit there and like fight with the O's and like punch my way through my grocery shopping? No, of course not. I'll wear a mask and I'll get it done and I'll bugger off, because it's not going to do me any good fighting with the oaks. You know, do I agree with wearing a mask? Of course not. I've got a mask in my car that I've had since the beginning of lockdown, and it looks like one of my dad's old workshop cloths. You know, it's so stiff and dirty and stuff, but they seem to think that's helpful. You know, and I'm not going to go and get another one. I don't have the energy, and I don't really care to get another one. It's just silly.
No,
just get an obey mask.
No, that's even sillier. They pay money for this stuff. No, man, don't be ridiculous. Biden said everyone should wear a mask everywhere, even outside. Wear a mask everywhere, even in your house. Don't forget to wear a mask when you're showering. You know, like, it's so bizarre.
If you're going on a smoke break, better take a mask.
Yeah, I've coined a new phrase called marxist.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be such a marxist.
That's good.
Biden is a pensioner with Alzheimer's. No, he's literally a walking dead person. Biden is just like, yes, he's next level. And candidate for the leader of the free world. Go figure. Yeah. How the hell did that happen, Dylan? How did that happen, dude? I mean, come on. Yes.
There must have been better candidates in the Democratic Party than that, you know. What about that lady from Hawaii? What was her name?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, she was like what they call like a old school Democrat.
Kind of. Well, the thing is, the Democrat Party's gotten so crazy on social issues that I think it really puts a lot of people off. So if you did run like an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez style candidate, it really wouldn't go well with wider America. So they basically had to dig out an old neoliberal who was kind of likable, because Warren was not. And who they really want to be in there, of course, is Kamala Harris. And as soon as, and I really don't think this is going to happen, but if Joe Biden wins, in short order, he'll either be sidelined and just be sort of a figurehead, just kind of there, or they'll cart him off to a nursing home and Kamala Harris will take over. Because that's who they really want.
So you also believe in my conspiracy theory then, Dylan?
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
Like, and there's there's been a couple of times, like she said, in a Harris-Biden administration, in like an interview, she slipped up. She did. And Nancy Pelosi was trying to get this bill passed to sort of expedite the process by which a president can be removed from health issues. And then the Republicans are like, what? What are you talking about? Trump's perfectly fine. And she's like, oh, no, not this president, future presidents. What? So they're trying to sneak in Kamala Harris through the back door because she couldn't get elected as a candidate herself. But she's definitely the candidate the Democrat Party, the people who run it, want in charge. And the backers of the Democrat Party, the Global Homo, the Goldman Sachs, and so on and so forth, Silicon Valley, she's their candidate because she'll make sure they're taken care of, but their social agenda will be social agenda will be pushed hard.
Yeah. So thankfully, I do think that Trump is going to landslide this elections. Thankfully, I haven't lost faith in the American people. I do think that they will prove themselves this coming election. But if they, I just don't. I think it'll be so incredibly disastrous for the United States if someone like Biden became president and then a week or two later he's in a nursing home and Kamala Harris comes in there pushing the most socialist progressive
Scott,
ideas.
It might not actually be so bad, like accelerationism, man.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's what I said. I said that the US.
Besides, what's going to happen? What's going to happen when Trump ends his term anyway? What's going to happen then? It will probably swing Democrat anyway because it's very seldom that you get. Occasionally, you'll get three of the same in a row, but not that often you'll get three in a row. You know what I mean?
But then also, we also thought like 2016 when they were going crazy and all of that, we thought, okay, they're going to sort of backpedal and regroup and all that, but they didn't. They doubled down. So what's to stop them from doubling down now again? When Trump wins the next election. So to think that the Democrats are.
The only difference is that Trump doesn't have another election to win.
Oh,
the only difference now is Trump doesn't have another election to win, so he can swing that executive axe a bit harder.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, the thing is, I think Scott's right. If they don't win, the Dems are going to go crazy. They're going to go nuts. But if they do win, and again, I don't think they will. I don't necessarily think it's going to landslide, but I do think Trump is going to win, and possibly by a larger margin than he did last time. But if the Democrats do win, like I said, they'll either, if the smarter heads prevail, they're not going to go full steam with the revolution. They're going to quietly, sort of, again, Tony Blair style, behind the scenes, rewrite a bunch of laws, appoint a lot of people, staff the bureaucracy with flunkies, and just sort of do it that way. So I think that's sort of what we'd look forward to with a Biden administration. Though I could be wrong. Either situation wouldn't surprise me. But I think definitely if Trump wins, the left are going to go crazy, and
some balkanization within the US might not be a bad thing, Dylan.
I think it would be a great thing. It's just I don't think that's going to happen.
That was one of the things that Doug Casey said in that same article. He said if people can't, if the culture splits, so much the country.
Yeah, and it should, but it's not. I just don't see it going to. Just because because what you had in the war between the states, as I like to call it, is you had two competing societies with their own sets of elites, with their own different vision of what the country wants. Nowadays, you basically have like people who want to go back to the 1980s and social and political radicals. And neither of them particularly want secession. And even if they could, there's no money power behind secession. You don't have any cotton barons who have slave plantations who want to sort of keep that system going, who would be, for secession. You don't have there's no aristocracy anymore. There's no elite who has a vested interest in secession. There just isn't.
Yeah, there's no like state elites. There's American elites. There's no like, oh, I'm a Californian elite, or I'm a Alaskan elite. You're an American elite. So there's no the interest is American, not local. If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So the nationalism of sort of a unified United States, that's won out. It has, and it's a shame. I wish it didn't. I wish we could. Secession was viable, and maybe in the future it might be, but for the foreseeable future, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, imagine the homelands, Dylan. All that oil money you guys could take to the bank, man. Jeez. The homelands. Dylan would return to the homelands and become an oil baron there. Walking around with a big cane.
Like just own 100 spaza shops.
Yeah, I think I've always, when I first met Dylan, I referred to him as the Alaskan rather than the Americans. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that American nationalism, man. It's that American. Oh, it's that Dylan's Alaskanism. Anyway, so we're just about done, guys. But I just want to jump into the comments here quickly before we cut off. I just want to. Andrew says Vusi. He probably pronounced it like Vusi Timbukwayo for president. Yeah, there we go. Vusi Timbukwayo for president. Ugh, whatever, man. John Pontes says, we Christians think lots in terms of prophecy and providence, whereas the cabal openly say they make the future, which often meant they rig things and planned so in advance. Rigging. But anyway, we don't want to get too many strikes over here, but ATR says, what's this? Trump has allowed the Dems to expose themselves. He'll clamp down hard when the time is right, but he needed the American people to get a taste of Antifa and BLM to educate them on their enemy. It's interesting. It's an interesting
comment.
Interesting take on that.
On that specific note, I'm just going to jump in here on that comment. The Trump administration has forwarded interesting bit of legislation where basically certain protections, union, basically hire and fire protections, which have been previously granted to federal administration, would be removed. So if Trump really wanted to go for it, and I think he totally should, next term, he could basically work as much as he can in 4 years to totally gut and rework the federal administration, and then just fire a shit ton of people and then put in, basically sensible people. So, and again, so that's the thing, like he appoints the head of these departments, but the problem is the workforce. So you basically have committed leftists and progressives filling out these government departments. But if now you can sort of have a free hand to liquidate them, then you might be able to, start making some things happen.
Yeah, Robin says over here, he says add 10% to Trump to ensure accuracy of the polls. I'd say generally they generally hack 40% off of Trump, like they did in the 2016. What did they say? Hillary Clinton, what, 90% chance of winning or something, or 80% chance, Trump 20% or something.
It was less than 20%. I think it was like New York Times. They had it. I mean, it was pathetic. It was. I'll find it out while you.
The best thing, what actually came up on my Facebook feed a while ago or recently was a picture that Hillary Clinton's Facebook whatever page shared, and it's a picture of Hillary Clinton as a child, and it says "Happy birthday to this future president."
Time magazine basically had a print run ready to come off the press with her on the front cover, Madame President, remember?
Insane.
They were all ready to go. And what it was Hillary Clinton 91% chance to win. Donald Trump 9% chance on the New York Times.
So Sideliner Opinions says, makes a good comment. He says, if Biden and Harris wins, it will lead to the final decline of Western civilization. The further final decline of Western civilization. It can definitely, and it will definitely further that. Whether Western civilization is ready to sort of hang up its hat yet, I don't know. We can only wait and see. Tyrone. Ty says, Trump is playing them like fiddles. It's been my entertainment since 2016, better than any Netflix show. Yeah, look, I will say, I mean, look, I'm not one of those Trump guys, those guys that goes around like calling people, who doesn't like Trump, you filthy commie, and, shut up, you commie. And because I got told that by another guy because I said something that Trump said was stupid, and he's like, he told me to bugger off, freaking commie kind of guy, But anyway, I'm not one of those kind of Trump guys, but I definitely think that that the US as a country seriously underestimates what they have in Donald Trump as a president, and the influence that had internationally on the political narrative. I think people really
he's shown how bad that. He's shown up all the political experts.
It's a combination. That 2016 was just a great year. Huh? It was Trump, and then it was Brexit. Brexit was the same year. Huh? Yeah.
Brexit, then Trump within 6 months of each other.
That was just an incredible year. That for the political sphere, it's just really an amazing year. Check Andrew Kroll over here trying to be wise. Coming with some serious. How long did it take you to Google that there, Andrew? He says over here, the great masses of the people would more easily fall victims to a big lie than a small one. Fine. That's cool. But so that's basically all the comments that I've got through. Do you guys have anything else that you want to talk about? Because we're well over an hour, yeah.
No, I'm all good. It's just we just wanted to
the only reason Russell allowed this conversation to go longer than an hour is because we're not talking about libertarianism or liberalism.
Yeah, this is real life.
So is libertarianism and liberalism.
That's just airhead talk, sky talk. Cloud talk.
Sky, what's it? Sky monster, spaghetti monster. Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy.
Stop being a what's it? Stop being a Christ cuck. I find it so amusing. These guys say these things, they say these things, and they think it's offensive or something. But it's like it's quite amusing, Yeah, okay, I'm a cuck to Christ. Cool. Yes, I am. So, so. But anyway, Sideline Opinion says the only way Biden can win is with postal vote fraud of SA proportions. Oof. Dylan, are you voting postal vote? Interesting question. I want to know
I'm probably not voting at all.
Doesn't matter if Dylan is in a tight state, in a slam dunk state. So his vote doesn't count as much. If he was like from
Yeah,
Ohio
they don't
or
need me.
Florida or
Yeah.
or even where else? Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania. One of those states, you know.
They don't need him.
Alaska is not a battleground state. It's solid red. And
What do they say?
yeah, they have other things. They have other things on the ballot. You know, I might look into it, but
What do
it
they
seems
say?
like a pain.
What is that old
Doesn't
Alaska saying, Dylan? How's it go? Alaska is redder than a moose's blood. That's the saying, right?
Rather than it's not the final frontier. It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So Boogaloo Bursian says, how's it, bro? Good to see you. He says, but guys, we need to talk about the roads. Yeah, don't get us started with liberalism and libertarianism. Russell will lose his cuck. Anyway, anything else you guys want to say?
I'm all good.
Already, I think just gonna see what the missus is up to. I think she finally put Nikki down. Poor guy was crying, and so now he's asleep.
Cool. Anyway, thank you so much to everyone for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to like, subscribe, go and check out Mr. Patriarch's channel. Dylan, there's more people listening now than were. Do you want to just tell them about what you've got coming up?
Yeah, definitely. So I just put out an interview on my channel, Mr. Patriarch. It's been going like gangbusters over there. Channel has grown a lot in the past couple of weeks, particularly. So if you haven't, go over there, check it out, and subscribe. I've got an interview with Paul Gottfried on fascism. I released another video on fascism, and I'm doing a video this week comparing Nazism with the Italian fascism. And on Saturday, late, I think it'll probably be 11 o'clock, so you could check it out after it's streamed. But I'm going to be doing an interview with Jonathan Pohl, P-O-H-L, on he said he wanted to talk about Italian fascism, patriarchy, and Africa. So I'm going to be talking about that on Saturday. So lots happening on the channel, and it's going good. So go over there and subscribe. Let's grow it even further.
Yeah, that's great. I'd like to watch that episode. That John Paul, he's a doctor, isn't he? Isn't he? He's a journalist.
Yeah, no, he is. Not a journalist. He's a basically a historian. So he's got a PhD, and I think it's East Asian studies. So basically, I think he specialized in like Kazakhstan, but anyways, that's sort of part of the world. But he was a professor in Ghana for a number of years, and so he's an academic basically, and he runs the channel Jonathan Pohl.
Very cool. So you guys know where to go and subscribe. Thank you again for listening, guys. Remember to stay reactionary out there, because
God wills it.